Hinojosa has joined us from Edinburgh, Texas, from Pan American University. Hinojosa is a Notre Dame graduate, PhD in 1980 in political science. And you may get the flavor now that you can taste of the different disciplinary aspects and emphasis that Dr. Samora has had over the years. And to talk about that, Hinojosa, who's now an associate professor there at Pan American University, will discuss his pioneering work in public service and scholarship.
Thank you, Esteban, and Miguel, and everybody else that helped organize, prepare this gathering today. It's a very important occasion for all of us, and something that perhaps we'll never forget. Coming to Notre Dame from South Texas was something that was kind of a dream for me and for my family. But this place is a place of myth and of legend and of reality, and Dr. Samora has always been our reality. So I want to read the following words with that understanding, that I was trying to synthesize the myths and legends of Notre Dame with our reality, which is Julian Samora. Outlined against the blue-gray October sky, the four horsemen rode again. Rare would be the University of Notre Dame alumnus who has not heard, at least once, those immortal words written by Granland Rice for the New York Times on the afternoon of October 8, 1924, as the Notre Dame Fighting Irish football team defeated a much favored Army squad by a score of 13-7. But what most Notre Dame supporters may not be aware of is that there's a fifth horseman. In legend, it is known as ignorance. In real life, however, his name is Julian Samora. On that day in which Rice coined those famous words, a 4- and 7-month-old boy born in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, of Spanish, Mexican, Indian heritage, was beginning his ascendancy over ignorance. This Chicano cavalier, whose feats against ignorance and the prejudices and injustices that are the result of the lack of knowledge, has also brought honor and glory to Notre Dame du Lac. But unfortunately, his accomplishments have remained rather anonymous to most Notre Dame fans, except to those of us who have had the good fortune of having known him. To his students at Notre Dame, he's a fifth horseman, the knight of knowledge, the champion against ignorance, intolerance, and injustice. Let us today examine his professional career, what he has done to deserve the tribute that we, his former students and his colleagues, grant him on this occasion. As a teacher, he started in the 1942-43 school year in the Huérfano County High School, Wallensburg, Colorado. Right after he had graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree from Adams State College in Alamosa. But his interest in research and scholarship came early, for he spent the 43-44 academic year in Colorado State University in Fort Collins as a research fellow. The next year, he returned to his alma mater, Adams State, to serve as instructor. Here, he taught off and on for 11 years, breaking the continuity to do graduate study at Colorado State University, where he obtained his master's in 1947. In 1948-49, when he went to Madison, Wisconsin, to work as a teaching assistant while studying for his doctorate. He transferred to Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri for the 49-50 year to work as a graduate student. Still in the faculty of Adams State, he conducted the research that led to his doctoral dissertation, Minority Leadership in a Bicultural Community, doing his research in the rural countryside of southern Colorado. He received the PhD in sociology from Washington University in 1953, the first Mexican-American in the United States to do so. His pioneering, however, was just beginning. In 1954, he was visiting professor at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. In 1955, he became an assistant professor of preventive medicine and public health at the University of Colorado School of Medicine in Denver. Here, with the co-authorship of Lyle Saunders and W.N. Dean, he published some of the first findings in medical sociology and social linguistics. In 1957, he moved to Lansing, Michigan, to teach at Michigan State. 2 years later, in 1959, he joined the faculty of the University of Notre Dame, where he has endeavored for the last 25 years. During the 1963, from 63 to 66, he served as head of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. He has been a visiting professor at la Universidad Nacional de Colombia in South America. And in 1964, he was visiting professor at the University of California at Los Angeles. And in 1971, he was visiting professor at the University of Texas at Austin. During this period, he served as a consultant to the United States Commission on Civil Rights, the U.S. Public Health Service, the Rosenberg Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the J. Hay Whitney Foundation, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the National Institute for Mental Health, the Weatherhead Foundation, the U.S. Human Resources Corporation, Harcourt Brace Jonovitz Incorporated, and the U.S. Bureau of the Census. He had also served in the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Commission and in the Indiana Civil Rights Commission. At the national level, he served in the National Upward Bound Council and in the President's Commission on Rural Poverty and the President's Commission on Income Maintenance. This laid down the foundation for an outstanding career in teaching, research, and service. From 1959, when he joined the Notre Dame faculty, to 1961, he taught at 4 different universities, consulted with 6 federal government agencies, served in 2 state commissions, 1 national and 2 presidential commissions, and assisted 4 private foundations. He also served as a consultant to a film, La Raza de Mexican Americans, 1969, and the map study of Mexican American historical development for Hearn Brothers of Detroit. During this time, he also published 12 articles in professional journals, 4 government reports, and 3 books. La Raza, Forgotten Americans in 1966, Mexican Americans in the Southwest, 1969, with Ernesto Galarza and Herman Gallegos, and Los Mojados, the Wetback Story in 1971. Los Mojados in 1971 appears to be the opus maximus for this 12-year period. For even though he cleared the way in such areas as medical sociology, rural sociology, social linguistics, the sociology of education, the study of leadership, acculturation, and social change, he was now focusing on the problems of Mexican Americans, Mexican immigration, and studies of the United States-Mexico border area. Los Mojados also introduces Jorge Bustamante and Gilberto Cárdenas as research collaborators. And here is where Dr. Samora begins his second, but perhaps his most productive period. His academic activities now center on establishing the University of Notre Dame Press as the primary publisher of Mexican-American materials, and in developing the Mexican-American Graduate Studies program. Before 1971, the University of Notre Dame Press had published 2 books related to Mexican-American studies, Influentials in 2 Border Cities by William De Antonio and William Fromm in 1965, which by 1983 had sold 2,000 copies, and La Raza, Forgotten Americans, edited in 1966 by Zamora, which up to 1983 had sold nearly 37,000 copies. Professor Zamora now focused on promoting the publications of Mexican-American studies, relying heavily on his old friend Ernesto Galarza, another titan of Chicano scholarship and activism, especially in the area of Mexican-American labor. Samora pushes the Notre Dame Press to the forefront for publishing Chicano-related materials by using financial support from Ford and other foundations. From Los Mojados, 1971, to Kodachrome in Rhyme, Galarza's last work in 1983, the Notre Dame Press published 14 major works dealing with Chicanos. The range began with Galarza's autobiographical Barrio Boy, 1971, then Spiders in the House, 1971, and Farm Workers and Agribusiness in California, 1977. It centers with Chicano Revolt in a Texas Town, 1974, a story of the political struggles in Crystal City, Texas, by John Shockley. A reader on Chicano politics by Chris Garcia, La Causa Política. And Mario Barrera's theoretical Race and Class in the Southwest, 1979. Sprinkled, you will also find John A. Price's Tijuana, Urbanization in a Border Culture, 1973. Francis Leon Suarez, Los Primeros Pobladores, 1974. Contemporary Chicano Theater, 1970, by Robert Garza. Raúl Fernández's U.S.-Mexico Border, 1977. And Samora also contributed 2 editions. A History of the Mexican-American People with Patricia Vandell Simon, and Gunpowder Justice, 1979, with Alberto Peña and Joe Bernat. Another pioneering work dealing with the Texas Rangers' abuse of power and the question of justice for Texas Mexicans. Those 14 publications have sold over 135,000 copies as of 1983, making the University of Notre Dame Press the leading publishing house of Mexican-American subjects. This is an average of 9,643 sales per title. The big sellers, however, are La Raza by Zamora with 36,905, Barrio Boy by Galarza, 23,746, Zamora's Los Mojados with 12,889, and A History of the Mexican-American People by Zamora and Simon with 10,263. Of the 14 publications, 6 were out of print by 1983. For a university press, this is considered very successful, and thus many other national presses today now consider Mexican Americans and other ethnic subjects quite legitimate. Unfortunately, the manuscripts, the writers of potential manuscripts are still in the developmental stage. However, one can envision another renaissance of Chicano literature such as that led by Zamora and Galarza in a few more years when one considers the other aspect of Zamora's contribution. This second, but perhaps the most important long-range contribution of Dr. Zamora is the Mexican-American Graduate Studies Program. Begun in 1971 with the sponsorship of the Ford Foundation, Dr. Zamora initiates the development of young scholars that are interested in furthering the study of Mexican Americans, Mexican immigration, and U.S.-Mexico border relations. Beginning with Jorge Bustamante, a native of Chihuahua, Mexico, the transnational aspects of Zamora's thinking relating to La Raza begins to unfold. Bustamante is joined by Gilberto Cárdenas, a Californian, fresh from the barrios of Los Angeles and the Chicano Moratorium of August 29, 1970. They are followed by Miguel Carranza from the cornfields of Nebraska, Alberto Mata, an Army brat originally from Texas but educated in Oklahoma, Juan Garcia, born in Texas but reared in Chicago, Cordelia Candelaria, Ken Barber, Esteban Flores, all from Colorado, Delfina Landeros, Guillermo Rios, Joe Mosqueda from Austin, Denny Valdez from San Antonio, Rick Coronado from Laredo, Barbara Driscoll from Boston, Massachusetts, and Julie Landinger from Ypsilanti, Michigan, Victor Rios from Hondo, Texas, and Salvador Acosta from Dallas. They came from Mexico, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Texas, the great Midwestern plains, and even the East Coast. They were city smart and rural wise. They were young, some not so young, but they were all answering a call. Some stuck it out and made it through the program. Some came, saw South Bend, and headed right back. Others left at the first snowfall. All became homesick and nostalgic about their families and friends at one time or another. But most stuck it out. A few hated it, some swore they would never do it again, but most endured. Despite the heavy academic schedule, all had to participate in Zamora's Chicano Colloquium, a special type of obstacle course which he invented to test the commitment and your dedication. It is rumored that most of the students, at least at one time in their Notre Dame experience, swore that Zamora was the devil. But that Father Hesburgh knew it. But since he made everybody's life so miserable, it served the purpose of appreciating heaven much more. Our other classmates of whatever ethnicity or background never really knew what we were going through, and we were not about to tell them. Most thought we shouldn't be here in the first place. So why give them the satisfaction of knowing our own personal burdens? Most wouldn't have understood, and a few wouldn't have cared. But as of 1984, 51 who entered the program, 15 have received their doctors of philosophy, 4 their Juris Doctorate, 9 have completed masters, and there were 4 ABDs. A couple transferred to other universities and completed their doctoral studies there. 7 withdrew from the program. 8 are still struggling through their special contrition. 15 majored in sociology, 13 in economics, 12 in law, 7 in history, 3 in psychology, and 1 in government. No other university in the United States can match this accomplishment in the production of Chicano graduate students. Today, you find Zamora students in Mexico, Texas, California, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Nebraska, Kansas, Florida, New York, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, and many other places. And these are only his graduate students. Who knows how many undergraduate students he has touched in 43 years. What his Mexican-American Graduate Studies program has done is create a cadre of Chicano academicians whose teaching, research, and service will for years have a tremendous impact on the development of Mexican-American studies, immigration and migration studies, United States-Mexico border issues, and La Raza in general. Nearly 20 years ago, Julian Samora edited La Raza, Forgotten Americans, to launch his campaign to make the United States academic community more aware of La Raza and the problems faced by this resolute but often ignored people. Today, we honor Dr. Samora, we who is La Raza, but perhaps we recognize who is La Raza, but perhaps some non-Hispanic Americans are still in the dark about who is La Raza. Well, then we must remind you that the United States of America is one country out of 29 nations in the American continent, one of 14 countries in North America, one of 6 English-speaking countries which were at one time British colonies in the Western Hemisphere. There are 26 Spanish-speaking nations in the Western Hemisphere, 2 French, 1 Portuguese, and 1 Dutch, and they are all Americans. Today, in the United States, there are approximately 230 million people, 230 million people. The 1980 census figures, which, while dated, give us an idea of the diversification of the United States. The total population in 1980 was 226,546,000, with 188,362,000 classified as white, 26,495,000 blacks, and 14,609,000 of Spanish origin. This Spanish origin population can now be further divided into 8 million of Mexican origin, Chicanos, 2 million Puerto Ricans, 1 million who are Cubans, 1 million of Central and South American origin, and another 2 million of other Spanish. By 1984, the unofficial count of Hispanics living in the United States numbered 16 million, and that's not counting the undocumented and the uncountable, making it the fourth largest Spanish-speaking country in the world, next to Mexico, Spain, and Argentina. Officially, the Hispanics are the nation's second largest minority, next to black Americans. But in reality, due to a high birth rate and immigration, estimates indicate that by the year 2000, Hispanics will surpass blacks as the largest racial ethnic minority in this country. This type of factual information is what makes Dr. Samora's contribution to raza studies so significant. For in pioneering the study of La Raza and in helping young scholars enter into those studies, he was building a bridge of understanding between 200 million English-speaking residents of the Western Hemisphere and the 400 million Indo-Hispanos, Latinos, who are La Raza of the Americas. It is this foresight that has made Dr. Samora the pathfinder in the study of La Raza. And that is why we gather here today, to recognize and honor the man so responsible for bringing all Americans together so that they may better know each other. A nation of immigrants, as it was called by John F. Kennedy, must understand its people in order to understand itself. Dr. Samora has led the charge in trying to reach that understanding. In 1978, the American Sociological Association honored Dr. Samora as one of the outstanding sociologists in the country for his pioneering scholarly research into medical sociology, population studies, racial ethnic relations, the education of Mexican Americans, U.S.-Mexico border studies, and Mexican immigration. In 1969, the National Council of La Raza, an organization he helped found as the Southwest Council of La Raza, honored him with the La Raza Award. In 1980, the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Congressional Hispanic Caucus named him one of the 13 outstanding Hispanic scholars in the United States. In 1982, the Hispanic community of South Bend, Indiana, recognized him for his contributions during the 4th annual National Hispanic Week celebration. Today, we gather to honor Dr. Julian Samora for his great contribution to Chicano scholarship, teaching, and public service. Here, by the shadows of the Golden Dome, under the watchful eyes of Our Lady, surrounded by the legends created by New Rockney, the Four Horsemen, we publicly proclaim our debt and appreciation. He has been our mentor, our leader, our scholar, our teacher, our fifth horseman. May God bless you.
Job well done. Thank you, Jose. I think we all appreciate those words.